is
And the
what are
sound?
Yes, yes,
the prevalence
yes,
of
I can view
obesity
it.
among 65 plus. Now, in order to answer this, in order to answer the question, if you are asked to write a normal literature review, you will take the further steps. First of all, first is to clearly explain the difference between a normal literature review and a systematic literature review. Now, many students, when they have their assignments given, they don't know the difference. What is a literature review and what is a systematic literature review? So, the first question that each writer, before they book any assignment or before they accept any assignment, what they need to know is, do I need to produce a literature review or a systematic literature review? This is the first question, okay? Okay, so the first question that you need to have answered is, do I need to write a literature review or do I need to write a systematic literature review? Those are two different things. Usually when students write small assignments at level 3, 4, foundation year or first year of university, sometimes level 5, the chances are they will be writing a box standard literature review. So the first example of example 1 will be what I call normal literature review. A normal literature review talks about what has been published about a given topic anywhere. Okay, that means books, that means journals, EBSCO, which is an online library, EBSCO, Google Scholar, etc. Right? The format. So let me go to one of the topics that we currently work on. Let me open it. Bear with me. I should have opened it in the first place. Right. So the topic that you may be working on, or you may be asked to write a literature review, a normal literature review, will be behavior patterns causing the prevalence of obesity among 65 plus in the Caribbean community. The question that you need to answer is, what are the behavior patterns causing the prevalence of obesity among 65 plus? Now, in order to answer this, the question, if you are asked to write a normal literature review, you will take the further steps. First of all, have the topic approved by university tutor and complete the form if needed. Your next step is do your search, Google Scholar. Please do not go and do not use Google as per se. This is your plan B. Go on Google Scholar, go on academic databases. I will actually attach here a list of academic databases that you can, a website with a list of academic databases that you can go onto and choose. You can search different databases. Bear with me. I'm looking for the list, but bear with me. Sorry. Okay, I can't find it, but I will find it. I will add it there. So, first of all, you have the topic approved by a university tutor and you need to complete the form if needed. If not, you get on with it and you do your search. You check Google Scholar, other academic databases, and as a third step, you need to generate 3 to 4 themes that reoccur among the published articles. Okay, so it can be you went on Google Scholar, you did do some reading. This is a training question. Okay, so you need to go on an or let's say you went on Google Scholar, you found there, I will take this one. I will go on to an academic database. Okay, type this, right? Oops. Hopefully you can see the same thing what I can see. Maybe not, bear with me. Okay. So I'm going on Google Scholar, right? I'm on Google Scholar, or I'm going on Google Scholar. I'm pasting the question. Obviously, you need to always think, what will I include? How long back will I look? So I don't know. I don't want any patents or citations. You know that box standard practice is that you need to filter the articles which are no older than 10 years. We are at the beginning of 2021, so you can still go to 2010 till 2021, search, and you have 15,800 articles, okay? So you will start to look and start to generate topics. How do you generate topics? You look, obesity, global epidemiology, pathogenesis. Is this relevant? We don't know. You need to open and check. Accept all cookies. Right. Is it relevant? Yes or no? If it is, paste the link into your document, which is a preparation document before you start to write. Now, going on Google Scholar, it is not a realistic expectation that you will actually go over 15,800 articles. If the database has, let's say, these many searches, you can discuss in the actual work that one of your mitigating factors of the full research, if you don't have time, obviously, writing dissertation is a whole different story. You should have enough time, but 15,000 articles is way too many. So you can go through first 10 pages and you can start to look as for what is published. So the next article, rising prevalence of obesity, a part A, impact on public health. Check it, see, is this relevant to Caribbean community, yes or not? If it is, let's pretend it is. I can take it, I am going back to our practice document, and I'm starting prepare. So how do you generate these topics is like this. Bear with me. I'm sorry for being quiet. No. Right. Okay. Now, um, how you start to generate topics is you start to paste the links and make a note. So this article was about the rising prevalence, and this will start to give you idea. So if you think this is relevant, paste it. This is your preparatory document, so the chances are by the time you finish, you will have few articles. So you need to generate 3-4 themes that occur among published articles. So this is one theme, for example, theme 1. Oh, pardon me. Need to go back. Sorry. So this is your first theme. Theme 1. The key thing will be obesity in the UK in general. And you have there some info about a Caribbean community. Okay, your theme number 2 could be, let me check the articles. Association breakfast. I'm back checking the database. Cancer statistic, global patterns of excess body weight. Perhaps we can look into something like this. Sometimes you may not have access to everything. These are global patterns. So global patterns of obesity, right? But if you choose to go with this one because you found like 2, 3, 5, 10 articles with similar linking topic, we also need to remember that our key question is, what are the behavior patterns causing prevalence of obesity among elderly in the Caribbean community? So these are your key points. So these are global patterns of obesity, Caribbean community mentioned. Okay, and then you can generate theme number 3, whatever it is. Okay, this is how you operate when you create normal normal literature review. Okay, we are talking about example one, normal literature review, not a systematic literature review, right? So you generate themes and then identify. So your step number four, your step number four will be identify gaps in literature. Step number four, step number five, try to answer the question, if enough word count, propose solution to what needs to be researched. Please note, I am not explaining, not in a dash, too much about obesity and patterns of obesity. I'm strictly focusing on what has been published about the topic. But no matter whether anyone is writing a literature review or systematic literature review, the question is not to write about obesity in a Caribbean community, but to write about what has been published about this topic, right? Now, this is really in a nutshell. And then, of course, you write conclusion. So, in other words, this will be an essay. Now, let's move on to example number two, which is a systematic literature review. In order to complete systematic literature review, this is a whole different ballgame. Let's go with just the same topic, right? Let's go with the same topic. However, on this occasion, the writer needs to approach the work in more a systematic manner. So, for example, we are going to take the same question, which is behavior patterns causing prevalence of obesity, and the question will be, what are the patterns? Okay, so we take just the same topic and the question, what do you do first? You need to understand that you need to know key terminology. In order to get by, you need to understand the key terminology. Key terminology. The first key terminology is PICO. What is PICO? PICO is, let me give you an example. It's an evidence-based, it's a frame, how to, or it's a framework which helps to generate a research question. And from there, further, you need to generate search words for your databases. What do I mean by that? So, let me open Picker for you and let me paste it here. So, I'm sorry. My apologies. I'm trying to fish for something, but I always thought I know what it is. Now I can't find it. So, when a person wants to write a PICO, this is an example of PICO which I'm pasting here. PICO serves to generate a research question and key search words for academic databases. Example of PICO. This is a whole different topic, obviously. Please note, this is from a different topic. This is from my own dissertation. So the writer can go and check. Now, there are some cases when PICO is not applicable. You need to use alternative frameworks. Okay? If you cannot use PICO, I'm dropping you here a link in the document. If PICO is not acceptable, there are other frameworks such as PICOS or Spider, which you are able to use. There is also PECO. Again, I'm dropping the two links so the writer can go and double check this. So these are alternatives to PICO, PECO, Spider, whatever fits in order to generate research question and come up with, look here, you have a PICO because for the question which I was using, it just did fit. And when you look at your question, what is the population? P stands for population, is a Caribbean community. Intervention means that's what we need to find. Okay. What you need is a comparison. That means mainstream population, and outcome is the weight loss. PICO could be applicable. You could, in terms of this research question, you can even use the spider as a means of justifying how you develop the question. So this is the first term which writer must know in order to write a systematic literature review. Okay, here is an example. This is a key PICO components, the keywords generated. There are alternative search words, and then the writer has to explain every single part of the PICO. Okay, the next keyword words that a writer needs to be familiar with is a prisma diagram, is prisma diagram. Okay, so prisma diagram. What is prisma diagram? Prisma diagram works in order to generate a systematic approach to literature review. And if you don't use Prisma diagram in a systematic literature review, the assignment will fail. So Prisma is also called a Prisma methodology. Right? Now, Prisma is an evidence-based minimum set of items of reporting in systematic literature review. Here, attached is a link to Prisma diagram, and every writer can go and use this link. Okay, the Pico Prisma. So Prisma, a Pico framework, Prisma diagram must be created by writer. You cannot go to any website and take it from somewhere else. It simply cannot happen. Now, let me drop you here. On that website, where I left you the link, when you open it on a right hand side, what you need to find is a Prisma flow diagram, and this is the diagram which a writer has to complete. The diagram will be talking about what has been published about the topic, where you start to answer, but you will be talking in numbers. What I mean by that is, let me give you again example. Okay, Prisma flow diagram. And this is how it's going to look like. Hold on. Oh, messed up a little bit. I need to make a space here. Prisma diagram usually takes one A4 page, by the way. Okay, so Prisma diagram. So when you take a topic, what you need to do, this is a completed Prisma diagram. It's a Word document. You need to look into different databases, which I will explain in a moment, right? But can you see you are writing about all your searches, just like we went on Google Scholar, and we found there 15,800 articles. You need to really talk about how many articles you found, what were the keywords. Then you look into additional records, for example, through other sources, if any. Then you need to look at both databases and decide, okay, this is how many articles are in the first one, this is how many articles are in the second one. Some of them are duplicates, so after removing duplicates, this is how many articles you have. The point for the reason why we're using this Prisma diagram or flowchart is that we're using systematic approach, and Prisma diagram is an evidence of a systematic research. If you don't use it, the assignment will fail. So the first term which you need to be familiar with, and I'm giving you an example, is the PICO framework. If PICO is not applicable, look the two links and check whether PECO or Spider may be more suitable. In any case, after you put together a table, be it PICO, PECO, Spider, you need to generate main keywords which will fit the PICO, PECO, or Spider, and alternative key search words. And then you need to prepare an explanation of it. All this explanation will end up being part of the word count when you paste it into the actual dissertation, right? Prisma diagram evidences your systematic approach to search. What is really important is that before you start to complete your search, you need to decide on inclusion and exclusion criteria. I'll get there later. So PICO, Prisma, and the last term which the writer needs to be familiar with is CASP table. And CASP table works as an organizer for themes and analysis of articles. What do I mean by that? Again, I'm going to paste you there an example so you can go so let's pretend you generated a topic, themes, what we discussed here. So when you get as far as generating themes from your Prisma and the articles, you will start to organize. Sorry. You will start to organize the themes, which are, I need to make this way smaller for you guys. So this is an example of a completed work. Okay. Right. So organizer of themes. So first there was some explanation. You can ignore this one. These are the themes which came as a result of using systematical approach from the Prisma diagram and checking the two databases and getting the articles. This was the dignity in care. The topic that was used was dignity in care. So this is a Science Direct and PubMed, and I chose some example articles, but the topics that were, or big themes that were reoccurring, were the three themes, and then under them there were actually sub-themes within that category. So this was all organized, and for each theme you need to produce what is called a CASP table. CASP table will not be part of your 10,000 word count. This will end up at the end in your attachment as an appendix. However, all this explanation as offered here, when you do it, it will end up being part of your word count at 10,000 words. So, systematic literature review, in other words, requires students take the 3 steps. First of all, and I'm pasting it here, where is the article? Where is the test document that we're using? So, how to then approach is steps to write a systematic literature review. Okay, first of all, which is I think quite obvious, sorry, I need to change this. Okay. Okay. Something's wrong. Let me change the settings. Yeah, whatever. So the first step, have a topic approved by university tutor and proposal form or forms completed. Once you're done, this is what you need to do. First of all, so this is your step number one. Step number one. This is your step number two. So the writer has to write a systematic literature review in the following steps. Have a topic approved by university tutor and proposal forms completed. Then you have step number two, which will be you have to choose which two databases for dissertation, 3 databases that you will be systematically searching. You cannot just go on Google. You need to go on Google Scholar, Science Direct. Please check these 2 links. I left them there to give you a list of academic databases that you may choose from. Step number 3 is once you choose which databases you want to search, you start to search those data. You need to decide on include.
Good morning. This is Shafiq. I've decided to pause and stop the video because I think though I haven't seen a number of people raise any issues, I think the video was very informative, but I think the producer of the video forgot to she was switching between screens. And I think for the last 10 minutes, we would apologize that we were looking at something which they were not talking about. But nevertheless, I think minus that, I'm very sure that most of you who were looking for information about reviewing literature systematically or otherwise, I'm very sure they got a glimpse into what systematic literature review is. And at the beginning of the video, I'm also very sure that what she termed as a normal literature review, I'm sure that you picked a number of issues which you might also need to refine in as far as the normal literature review is concerned. I know that there are a number of people on this call who are doing systematic literature review. They might have a 1 or 2 things to say before we go ahead, and then we can comment. I've seen a number of times when we do a systematic literature review, sometimes we actually do it for just for purposes of carrying out literature review. But I'm very sure that all of you understand that actually it is from the literature that most probably the hypothesis is that the gaps are identified, and at the end of the day, hypothesis development is done. I see a number of people on the call, and especially from the economics class, the energy economics class, who might have a thing or two. And I'm very sure that James Mubangizi, you are one of those people who who can tell us a little bit. I know you have been doing some literature review. Would you mind going through a few things just to remind us, at least from what you picked, in as far as the lady who was presenting was concerned? I'm very sure you picked a thing or two, and you can, take us just in a few minutes through. James.
Okay, thank you, Shafiq, and everybody on call. They already introduced two major terms, as you have said, what she called a normal literature review, and then also a systematic literature review. Of course, for me, I have been used to the systematic literature review. I have not done the normal literature review, especially at this stage of the PhD. But when it comes to systematic literature review, as she was saying, it is a very rigorous exercise. But at the end of the day, the results pay highly when you do it perfectly, very well. Because at the end of the day, when you're constructing a proposal, then you find that the whole work is flowing very well, because the major concepts that you need from introducing the proposal, they have come from the literature review. For example, I have been writing my literature review, which I believe is almost being completed, because I'm already now doing corrections. I was doing at the conceptualization, antecedents, and modeling and decarbonization. So, and those are the very major, very big terms when it comes to doing a literature review. If you can understand the conceptualization, you understand antecedents, then you will be good to go. And those are the heart of literature review, that is antecedents and the conceptualization. Then at the end of the day, you should also be able to develop theories, because I think that when you're writing a proposal, then you'll come up very strongly. So as Edu was saying, that when you're writing literature review, it is very, very important in our journey of getting a PhD. Thank you. That's what I can say, Shafiq.
Thank you very much. A number of terms, a number of new terms and new, I would call, concepts came in for the people who do normal literature reviews and have done normal literature reviews. I think you've seen the terms like PICO, search words, the Prisma, the Prisma concept, and the inclusion exclusion criteria. Would someone want to come in on that and tell us exactly what it is? Yes, James, that is Ronald Emojong. Do you want to come in on that? Yes, go ahead.
No, thank you. It was just under to you to help elaborate more on the Prisma approach, because I've been before to the website and they say there's a checklist we're supposed to use, which I've not really understood. Two, thank you so much for the presentation. It has opened a lot of light, because when you start the systematic review, at times you're confused on what approach am I to use, what is coming out. And so far, when I've looked at the PICO may not seem to be more relevant to us, but the PICOs, which he mentioned, seems to really bring out something more appropriate to our economic situation. Then the issue of the Prisma flow diagram. Yes, it is good because it really outlines how you're supposed to search systematically. And it's a word-based document that you can fill in the key stages. But the thing which I'm interested is, how do you use the checklist? Then most importantly, how do you synthesize? I know there's what they call the literature, table, which someone fills in. And then the last step is, how does one really synthesize? Like our colleague did last week, presenting that in this area, it has not been studied. In this area, there have been few papers. Or in these journals, most of the articles have been submitted in these areas of studies. And in these journals which have the list of these papers, I submit and thank you once more.
Thank you, Emojong. I have some feedback on that, but I would let someone from here try to attempt. And remember, you are not giving us the right answer of any sort. Yes, Joseph?
Thank you very much, Shafiq. I hope you can hear me.
You are very, very loud and clear.
Thank you very much. This a very sensitive area, systematic literature review. I think one of the things I really want to probably stress out is that, you know, when we talk about a systematic literature review, we are talking about a review which has a structure that can be followed. We are talking about a review that can be replicated. The replicability is very important. That's why we follow a certain procedure. That's why we follow a certain structure. Because in the end, someone else should be able to follow the same approach and almost come up with the same results. Now, what the presenter calls a normal literature review is that kind of literature review which does not follow really a very structured process. That's why she said that you can have information from anywhere, published from anywhere. But here, in a systematic literature review, it's really very important that you narrow your search based on a certain structure, beginning with a question and then the sub-questions that will help you to address that question. But what's very important is for you to know, where do I get this information from? So that's why the presenter is talking about the websites, the databases, and the journals. Number two is that how do I go about getting this information? And that's why the presenter is talking about the search terms, what we really call the Boolean terms. How do I narrow this big question so that I should be able to get a wider scope of the articles or the documents that I need, but without losing focus in what I'm really looking for? So, so in the process of searching, you need the search terms, you need the key term, text or in text or in title, so that you're able to narrow it, but without losing focus. I have had my brother, I think was, I forget the name, talking about the thesis. Before you even go to the thesis, you really need to understand your methodology. And that's all those things that are talking about Boolean search and all, those terms. They form part of the methodology, your approach, how you're going to go about getting this information that you need. Now, in some areas of study, you find that probably there's less publication in terms of journal articles. So you have the opportunity also to go elsewhere and look for credible reports from credible organizations. And that's actually what we normally refer to as gray literature. And you could be allowed to have that into your data set. The issues of quality control are very important. That's why you also need to be very considerate on the type of, on the nature of the journals from which you're going to get your articles and the gray literature from. Shafiq, because of time, I may not go really deeper into these things, but I would just want to say that you might have to really purpose to begin to try to understand from the word go what's a systematic literature review. It's a little bit different from the normal research. A normal literature review, because this is a very rigorous process. And in the end, as James has said, in the end, if you do it very well, you are not going to face a lot of problems with your proposal writing, because this process will be able to help you to conceptualize your work. It's going to help you to identify a number of what I've had James refer to as antecedents. These are basically the factors that that lady was talking about, and these in most cases form most of your independent or predictor factors that you're going to use in your area. But most important, you definitely understand properly your area of study if you do your systematic literature review very well. I would really want to stop here. Thank you very much, my brother Shafik.
Thank you, Joseph. That was coming from a person who is trying to do a systematic literature review. I would pose a question before I can come in with my own views about the systematic literature review, and I will ask James or Joseph here: is there a situation? Is there a topic? Is there a particular study where a systematic literature review may not be suitable? And I'm asking this because I've seen many presentations where people would justify they are not. I am from a university where systematic literature review has almost become something compulsory. Is there any situation, an academic situation, where a systematic literature review would not be best suited to a particular study? You want to come in on that before I can go ahead?
Thank you, Shafik. I think each and every university has a different way of training PhD students. Many universities begin by encouraging students to submit a synopsis or a conceptual framework. Then from the conceptual framework, they go to submitting a proposal, and then you go to writing a report. That is what many universities do. But like for us here in MOBS, instead of submitting a synopsis, now they tell you to submit a systematic literature review. So I think that depends on the policy of the university. But as we are saying, what helps you very well is beginning with a systematic literature review instead of submitting a synopsis or your topic of study. So if you begin with a literature review, you will be beginning from a very solid ground. Then to answer a question that our brother asked about sources of data. So when you are getting articles from the internet and reading them, there is what you call a literature matrix. A literature matrix will be prepared from Excel. And that Excel sheet, that's where you summarize all the articles that you are reading or you have selected to be used for your study. For example, you'll be having a number of rows and columns. So you may be having like 30 rows. If you are having 30 rows, it means you are having 30 articles that you are facing. And then you'll be having a number of columns. So for example, in the first column, you can talk about the authors of the different articles. The second column, you talk about the title of the articles. In the third column, you talk about the years when the articles were published. In the fourth column, we talk about the journals where the articles are published. In the fifth column, we talk about maybe the continent or the country where the geographical location of the different authors. You say, maybe this one is coming from Uganda, the continent is Africa. This one is coming from Peru, the continent is South America. This one is coming from Canada, the continent is North America. This one is coming from Italy, the continent is Europe. This one is coming from China, the continent is Asia. So you talk about where the author is coming from. Then maybe you can also talk about the methodology. So that's so you summarize different information from the article that you are reading. You can even talk about the antecedents. That's where they come in, and the conceptualization. Then having analyzed all the articles that you are talking about, that's when now you can do what you call descriptive analysis. And when you do descriptive analysis, that's when you can have a graph or a pie chart or a bar graph of the different variables. And those are the variables that you use in the synthesis. Although Erasto didn't talk about it, but he said that they are not, but I wanted to explain that where do you get that information that you put in a bar graph? Where do you get that information that you put in a pie chart? where you get that you put in a table. And that information will come from the literature matrix, which we prepared in the Excel sheet as you are reading and summarizing the different articles. And once you do it very well, then you can be able now to write a report that talks about you say that all the articles are coming from North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and then that's when you can begin talking about that language. Then you can say most of the scores are coming from this continent, or articles are coming from this source. So you summarize all that information from the literature matrix. That's what I can do to supplement what our brother was asking.
Thank you very much, James, especially trying to answer Ronald's question about this synthesis of literature, which I'm very happy that you did your best to explain in a short time. I'm very sure that the synthesis matrix is something that I've seen people do, even now, people who do a normal review, they are coming up with a synthesis matrix to identify those gaps. And James put it very well that you could be able to also identify some structural issues in literature, some geographical issues in literature, and maybe some thematic issues in literature by knowing that these articles have focused on this, these articles have this methodology, these articles are coming from this paradigm and the other. And that will be able, that will also make you, your literature would be that rich. We don't have a lot of time, but I would say systematic literature review is a methodology itself. And I think Joseph talked about this and said that unlike the memo review, just don't go to start to review literature without actually agreeing on the procedure in which the literature should be reviewed. I would actually tell you that systematic literature review is research itself. It's not just a methodology, but you can actually do a systematic literature review, and you may not even want to go later to collect data. Many people are actually publishing articles just based on the rigorous nature of systematic reviews. I'm very sure, Dr. Ahmed, you chose something which is critical for many people who are trying to do, who are working on their proposals. And I'm very sure that even next time, for purposes of continuity, I really feel that we could even get another video or presentation pertaining systematic literature reviews, because they are becoming something that the 21st century PhD student should never miss out. So our time has elapsed. I don't know whether Dr. Ahmed, you are on the call, but I would like to thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for the video. I really can't, we can't also thank Professor Ntai enough for making this happen. I can assure you that most of these initiatives are always anchored on certain personalities, and Professor Ntai, you have given us something. You have mentored us about how to keep initiatives going, and we can't really thank you enough that after all this time we can still have. I'll just pick one to share a piece just to say something. I always don't want to leave the ladies out, especially if they raise their hand. Yes, please.
Yes, morning, people, and morning, commenters.
Morning.
Kindly give me light on, is traditional and the normal literature review the same, or there is a difference? Thank you.
I would let, I am going to answer as a student. All I know is that for purposes of the question, they are the same. But I will also assure you that in what we call the tradition, there are many other types. You will find that this one is called a narrative, this one is called a general review, but the point is, in the tradition, and normal literature review or general literature review is more or less the same. However, at the end of the day, when you actually go and read, say, Creswell and many other research gurus, they will tell you that even in that, there are a number of different types of traditional reviews, if I may answer you right. Thank you very much. I would really love to not to go any beyond the 2 minutes which I've gone through. Can I, Dr. Ahmed, are you in line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mujabi Shafiq, for moderating our first session. And I think to those who are actually on the journey of their PhDs, this is quite important. You mentioned something on systematic literature review being both a review of literature and the methodology. And I think we can continue with it next week with looking at it as a methodology, because it's, yes, true, it is a qualitative approach or a methodology towards research. And that is, I think professors have said that sometime back here on how literature review can be a methodology. And yes, it is a methodology. Thank you very much. Members, you're welcome to our second session of the day. And Sunday, 27th February 2022. We'd like to count and appreciate the number of Sundays and number of times we have been here. We appreciate the Lord for giving us the energy and the zeal and the continuity of being here every Sunday. We are really grateful and thankful to the Lord. So today's Sunday, we continuing our students' presentations. As you know that we have we decided to give the first part of this year to presentations of the students to ensure that more people can be given feedback and progress on their different PhD journeys. We appreciate many of you have really raised concern of presentation, and many have really picked interest in presenting their work, but there's kind of traffic in the last 1 or 2 weeks of the number we want to present. But for those who have not been given priority at the moment, really appreciate. But we are trying to work out a way whereby everybody will be given a chance to present as early as possible. The only challenge is that we need people to get feedback that is really appropriate and a feedback that can enable you to progress on your PhD and move. So to the members who have just joined today, we are welcome to our sessions. This is a PhD platform, and this platform is kind of international. We have students who come from different forums. We have students from the East African region. We have students from the West African region. We have students from South African region, especially Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Zambia. And our colleagues who come from the Asian region, Asia, thank you very much. This, I think today the first person to join was Radha from, I think Radha was the first person to join. Thank you very much for joining in time. Allow me welcome now our senior colleagues on the platform. Appreciate our senior mentor, Professor Joseph Untai, for your continuity and support. And also our senior colleagues as usual. Today we have Dr. Msenze Ibra. Dr. Msenze is a very senior person on our platform. You know that Dr. Msenze is the Dean of Faculty of Business from Bustema University. Dr. Jumateko is the head of department finance at MOBS. Dr. Matov Musa is heading research at postgraduate programs at Islamic University, Professor Gagari from Chambogo University, and many others. You can see the spread of our senior colleagues. So members, today we have Charles Kalinzi, and I think Charles, you should be ready with your presentation. We normally give students approximately 45 minutes. Charles is presenting his entire work from the beginning up to the end because he's about to defend. So he's going to go through his, he's trying to prepare this for the final viva. So Charles possibly has all the sections of the work. So we shall give you 45 minutes and then we shall give you another 1 hour of grilling. So our senior colleagues and students on the platform, please take note of that. We are here to help Charles move so that he can submit his book for defense. Thank you. And Charles, you have the platform.
Thank you, Chair, and members on the call. I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Charles Kalinzi, and I'm presenting my work on procurement performance expectation gaps in public works contracts in Uganda's district governments. To begin with, I am sure many of us have been to the upcountry places where the roads are in a very terrible situation. Sometimes we've been stuck on the road. Sometimes we couldn't reach where we're going. Sometimes we spent nights on the road. And we tend to blame quite a number of individuals there, blaming a number of districts, blaming a number of different parties that are responsible for this. So this study specifically looks at the performance expectations of the different stakeholders in these different places and how they have interpreted their roadworks contract outcomes in the different district governments. Governments today spend an estimated 13 trillion on public works contracts for goods, works, and services, and at the same time, they lose a quarter of this spending due to inefficiencies, despite the pressure to improve procurement practices. These inefficiencies have become an ongoing concern for stakeholders, policymakers, politicians, and funders in the attainment of public procurement outcomes, despite a call for increasing performance effectiveness and efficiency of the public procurement systems. So we note that the construction projects heavily rely on donor financing, and this consistently requires improvement to fulfill the complexity of the stakeholders' needs and expectations. Chair and members, roadworks contracts bring on board a number of stakeholders, and each of these stakeholders come with different expectations. And if all these expectations are not addressed timely, most of these projects will continue stalling, as you have observed, in the countryside, and in the worst case scenario, donor financing might be withdrawn. Despite such failures in the roadwork sector, Gulu district has relatively succeeded in achieving performance expectations in the health, education sectors, as the case portrays. Gulu district emerged as the best performing district according to the local government council scorecard report, which was published on December 14th, 2017, and it scored 82% in the water, education, and health sector, and it emerged the 5th overall for a 5-year consecutive period. So we note that Gulu, in order to achieve this consistent performance in the water, education, and health sector, it had direct involvement or engagement with the community in supporting the development projects, addressed a number of concerns with the community aspirations through timely meetings. It had regular consultative meetings, the barazas, and the radio talk shows. It maintained regular contact with the community leaders. It also initiated these projects through active participation and fiercely negotiated with the community members in terms of resource mobilization, and monitoring of service delivery had been enforced. However, much of these were being achieved in the water, education, and health sector. The roadwork sector remained behind. The reason attributed to this is because during 2017, the government of Uganda embarked on a mega project of procuring roadworks equipments that were distributed in the different district governments. And that was a time when the engineering departments of these district local governments were given this responsibility of using this equipment through a force account mechanism to start working on their roads as opposed to open contracting. So the works department was overwhelmed. They had little staff. They had to embark on a number of projects in their area. Staff were not trained in using these equipments, and that's why this scorecard ranked it poorly. So nevertheless, what did the Gulu district government achieve? Through this, they improved their stakeholder engagement in terms of day-to-day activities. There was regular contact or communication through implementation of activities that initiated programs like barazas and radio talk shows, served the community equally in terms of working on their roadworks, regardless of political affiliations. If you remember, Gulu has been a place which is badly hit politically. It improved performance gaps through meeting stakeholders' needs and expectations, and improved the mechanism because of these radio talk shows where callers would call in and address issues timely. Chair and members, the lessons learned from this story is that the more the stakeholders are engaged, the more information is shared, and the more they directly engage the district government. And through this direct engagement, we have seen increased collaboration between the district governments and the community that is benefiting from these projects. They have undertaken a number of tasks, multi-tasks, for instance, water engineering services through the relevant offices. They have greatly improved the feedback mechanism. They have created a WhatsApp group where the community sends in comments instantly, and these comments are received by the district authorities and worked on them. Increased the coordination of community activities in the different parts of the district. And they have also tried as much as possible to downplay political influence in implementing these projects. So such consistent performance in these three other sectors can be replicated in, we are asking a question, can such consistent performance in these three closely related sectors be replicated in the work sector as well? Because by the time this survey was done, the roadwork sector was ranked poorly because of undergoing a series of transformations, moving from open contracting to using force account mechanism. So understanding Gulu's excellent performance in the education, health, and the other sector calls for policy, practical, and theoretical explanations. Chair and members, we deploy 4 theories: stakeholder theory, institutional theory, path-dependent theory, and framing theory in order to understand Gulu's performance. For instance, stakeholder theory posts that organizations should be concerned about the interests of the stakeholders they affect when taking strategic decisions, because these ones account for their interests, which they do affect. And from the stakeholder theory, we note that Gulu district local government took into consideration the stakeholders' interests by bringing the community members on board. And by doing this, they are being integrated into the decision-making process. So the theory accounted for a series of meetings that the Gulu district of governments engaged with the stakeholders. However, this theory pays less attention to the behavioral aspects, since most of these roads are done by the engineering department, and therefore the technical personnel have displayed a number of behavioral aspects that have somehow led to declining performance levels. And because of this, we bring in the institutional theory, which posts that organizations can be accountable to society and environmental expectations, which include pressure elements such as rules and norms. So these institutional pressures influence procurement activities that are being undertaken within the PDEs, procuring and disposing entities within an institutional environment, leading to performance expectations. So they are very crucial in shaping the organizational structure and human behavior aspects. So we note that the institutional theory is very fundamental here in explaining how the district governments are adopting socially responsible behaviors from the technical personnel who are charged with the implementing and designing these roadworks contracts through a series of communication with stakeholders. However, this theory is still limited in explaining the outcomes of the roadworks contracts, where some districts are performing very well and others are performing poorly. And because of this, the theory cannot fully address the outcomes from the behavioral aspects of the technical personnel. And because of this, we bring the path-dependent theory to explain the institutions that structure and channel their behavioral standards and activities along the established path. There are various standards and rules in public policies which are determined by previous choices that impose constraints. We note here, Chair, that district governments have been consistently working on these roads using open contracting as a procurement procedure. And right now they are moving away from open contracting to using force on account mechanism. And that one calls for some slight adjustment as opposed to continuously locking in that particular way in which these roads have been worked on for a very long time. And because of this, the path-dependent theory explain how the district governments have been doing this in a rather an old-fashioned way, which has now changed, which has been easier according to them, as opposed to adjusting to the different choices with the different rules which have been brought on board, and even different technology that is being advocated. So yes, history matters, but these new trends need to also be adjusted. So the question is, are they adjusting according to our expectations? That's the question we still pose here. So still the theory ignores the way in which different beneficiaries appreciate and interpret the roadworks outcomes. And that's why we bring on board the framing theory. And the framing theory, Chair, posts that individuals recognize particular events. Once they do that, they respond by employing particular framework of interpretation of the meaning and issues of a kind. So this theory is accounting for the different interpretations of the stakeholders' perceptions on the completed roadworks projects in their differently local governments. Chair, let alone we shall note that as opposed to procurement performance, the community and the stakeholders actually have gradually started interpreting this as destructive procurement performance, because most of the reports have consistently shown a declining path in procurement performance, which is attributed to the actions of the procurement actors. So, Chair and members, the combination of these theories can be used to explain this complex phenomenon that brings stakeholders, quite a number of stakeholders on board. When we synthesized literature, we identified a number of research gaps. First of all, research addressing the performance expectation gap is sparse and incomplete, and it does not address the magnitude of the gap, which we are questioning here. Many studies on the expectation gap have been undertaken in auditing and accounting and marketing literature. And we noticed that in auditing and accounting, they have been holistically trying to constructively explain the issue of performance gap by looking at the stakeholders vis-a-vis the external auditors, whether the expectations from the external auditors match with those of the shareholders, which has not been the case. And we also notice that here, we are now trying to match the expectations of the stakeholders, different stakeholders that are participating in the roadworks projects, and the expectations of the technical personnel. Methodologically, previous scholars mainly used the constructivism approach in trying to diagnose the issue of performance gap, and they concentrated on qualifying the expectation gap without addressing the question of the magnitude of the gap. And Chair and members will notice that this particular study tries to address this particular issue. How wide, how narrow is this gap we are talking about? So empirically, previous research also mainly focused on procurement performance, because a lot of money has been injected in order to improve procurement performance, in which they have been emphasizing how an efficient and effective procurement process can contribute to better procurement performance. But however, we note that right now, instead of achieving procurement performance, we are instead achieving destructive procurement performance. as the various scholars have termed it. So unlike previous studies, which focus on procurement performance, and yet the reality on ground shows that there is destructive procurement performance, this study is using derivative constructs of procurement performance to address the performance expectation gap in roadworks. Chair, there has been widespread criticism of an increasing pattern of shoulder construction works in different regions, being attributed to the procuring and disposing entities construction contracts being handled internally by the district government's engineering department, where users' expectations have not been achieved, they have been mismatched. And they also note that empirically, PPDA audit reports have reported glaring levels of an inefficient and an ineffective number of cases over time, clearly bringing out performance inefficiencies in the roadwork sector, inefficiencies and lack of sustainability of procurement outputs. Roads are not sustainable. They are washed away within a very short time. They don't really measure up to expectations. And also instances where stakeholders are rejecting completed roadworks projects to the extent of refusing to commission them, which has created performance unreasonableness. Despite the growing amount of academic exchange on roadworks sector performance, there appears to be no unified framework for studying the effects on procurement expectation gap. So, Chair, if this mismatch in performance expectations between the stakeholders and technical personnel is not addressed, as earlier on noted, the donors may consider pulling out of the financing of roadworks projects. And in a worst case scenario, most of these projects will end up suffocating. The purpose of this study is to examine the relationship between roadworks engagement, institutional pressures, path dependence, and procurement performance expectation gap in addressing public works contracts performance. And we achieved this through a number of research objectives. For instance, we set out to investigate the nature of public procurement performance expectation gaps in roadworks contracts and the associated hypotheses. We had the 10 hypotheses.
Charles, your objectives are not, we have not seen them.
Yeah, objectives are here.
The link is not opening.
It's not opening your side? Because here it is opening. Oh, here it is opening. So one of the research objectives is to investigate the nature of public procurement performance expectation gaps, since we are borrowing this concept from auditing and marketing, and we are trying to replicate it to public procurement. So we set out to understand really what is this performance expectation gap that is also cutting across the fields from auditing and accounting to now procurement. And it's an associated proposition where we set out to look at the nature and the magnitude of the procurement performance expectation gap, among other objectives, 10 of them, Chair. And the main research question here is, what's the nature and the magnitude of the procurement performance expectation gap? Through this, Chair, we came up with a conceptual framework after a review of literature, where procurement performance expectation gap is a function of performance deficient gap, performance defectiveness gap, and performance reasonableness gap. And we are trying to look at the relationship between roadworks engagement, institutional pressures, path dependence, and procurement rules enforcement towards the performance expectation gap. Methodology, Chair, the phenomenon we are studying is relatively new, and therefore not much is known in this particular field. And because of that, we used interpretivism and positivism philosophy. And ontologically, this is relatively a complex phenomenon that has many realities. The way people react to the procurement outcomes, roadworks outcomes, is a little bit too subjective. where different stakeholders are either satisfied and others are not satisfied, and they're giving their own reasons. And because of this, for having many realities, which are both structured and unstructured, we are using both exploratory and explanatory approaches in trying to understand this particular aspect. And we are using a mixed methods study, starting with the qualitative data collection and followed by the quantitative data collection, because we wanted to really go out and first understand what is this procurement performance expectation gap. Study population, Chair, we zeroed down on the list of district governments that had been audited by PPDA, Public Procurement and Disposal of Assets Authority, between 2013-14 to 2016-17, and out of these, 86 district governments had been audited. And using a management formula, it gave us a sample of 69 district governments with the 2874 community access roads, totaling to 18,809 kilometers that formed the unit of analysis. Chair, the roadworks projects in district governments are measured in terms of kilometers because these are, they undertake periodic maintenance. That's why they measure the output in the kilometers. And the unit of analysis, we are looking at these community roadworks projects that have been worked on in the 69 district governments over that particular period. And we are setting out to inquire the understanding of this particular aspect from the key procurement project managers and actors who directly participate in the design, contracting, and execution of community access roads. Chair, these are the district governments that we collected data from in terms of regions. We also have these community roadworks projects, and the characteristics of these community roadworks projects we are talking about.
Charles,
yes,
Charles.
please. Yes, please.
Your hyperlinks are not working. So take note of that, please. Your hyperlinks are not working. Members may ask you later on to open these hyperlinks.
Okay.
But you can proceed for now.
Okay. Stay until they are opening here. I don't know what could be. Let me just see. For instance, the community roadworks projects, and these are roads which are not regularly rehabilitated, although they are meant for periodic maintenance, and they use community materials, gravel. They are labor-based in nature. They mostly use road gangs, and there's minimal road construction standards because of a lot of customization. Resource envelope is not sufficient, and there are minimal safety features. In most cases, they're unpaved, and there's minimal traffic used by pedestrians and mostly bodabodas. In terms of operationalization and measurement of variables, I don't know why the hyperlinks are not, because here they are actually opening incidentally. Chair, how did we operationalize this, especially the dependent variable? We operationalize this in terms of the performance efficient gap, performance defective gap, and performance reasonableness gap. And by performance deficient gap, we are looking at whether district governments were capable of producing the desired roadworks results without wasting a lot of materials, time, and energy, looking at how procurement process is handled. In terms of the performance effectiveness gap, we are looking at producing the roadworks results, which is minimally wanted at the end of the day. And the performance reasonableness gap, whether the society that expects the quality of the roadworks output was actually achieved. And we had corresponding questions on that. Chair, in terms of data collection and analysis, we carried out in-depth interviews because we wanted to first understand this concept and their subjective meetings. And we had interviews from technical personnel and managers who were involved in implementation of these roadworks projects. That is the district engineer, assistant district engineer, roadworks planning unit, head PDU, COW, and also road users. And by road users, technically, we wanted to interview the elected representatives of the community who have also had a responsibility of passing budgets for working on this roadworks community. They stay in the community and therefore they're accessible and they have a stake in terms of the attainment of these completed roadworks projects in their area. We had 33 individuals and we carried out face-to-face interviews lasting between 45 and 1 hour. And these interviews were conducted between December 2020 and February 2021 in the 4 regions of Uganda. And this is, Chair, the key profile of interviewees. We had several respondents. We are showing their position of the respondents, the education qualification, the category of the respondent, whether it was technical personnel or road user, the experience in handling the community access roadworks projects, and their overall experience, since sometimes they rotate them from one district to the other. Chair, after getting the results, we used Atlas V9, version 9, to conduct an analysis and come up with smart key content analysis, and they came up with themes trying to explain the procurement performance expectation gap. In terms of quantitative data, we used same structured questionnaire to collect data, and this same structured questionnaire was actually coming from the data that came from interviews that informed us on the design of a quantitative tool, since we couldn't come up with a universally tested tool for testing this procurement performance expectation gap. In terms of validity and reliability of quantitative data, we selected participants who had worked with the district governments on various committees, and we interviewed them. We also collected data and cross-checked the results with the theory. These are audio and written transcripts that we captured, and also voice notes were used for correctness. And also in terms of conformability, we cross-checked the analysis and we compared constructs on all the respondent cases. Chair and members, of course, there are always issues of common methods bias, and in order to avoid this, we use a number of procedural remedies to minimize common methods bias. Questionnaire development, we minimize item ambiguity, and we ensured that we went through a robust testing process where consultations and pilot testing was undertaken. We also avoided the double-bound questions and maintained simplicity in measurement items. We also used the 5-point Likert scale, where 5 was for outstanding performance, and then 1 was for unsatisfactory performance, and we guaranteed the respondents' confidentiality. The quantitative questionnaire, as I said, was developed from the qualitative data results that informed our study because we couldn't come up with the questionnaire instrument. We selected respondents who had appropriate experiences about the issues of interest, and we didn't disclose the identities. And Chair, we carried out common methods bias for quantitative data, where we achieved the various inflation factor and tested collinearity, where the values were less than 3.3. As you can see, all these values about the variables are less than 3.3, which quantitatively confirms that common methods bias is not an issue according to ANOC 2015. Quantitative data management, we coded and checked items for capturing in SPSS, and also used the smart PLS because it's one of the systems that can manage robust analysis of data of this nature. We conducted descriptive statistics, and we ran for completeness with the data, where we checked for missing values and outliers. As you can see here, according to Rubin's test, we checked whether data was missing at random, and from our robust checks.
Charles, I think
Yes.
at this point you may need to, people may need to see those results. Going forward, you can't talk about having done missing values and others, and then don't look at the results.
Opening.
The links are not opening at all. The best advice next time, put the hyperlinks in PowerPoint also. What no disturbs to connect.
Surprised because these links were. Oh, okay. Let me just maybe I was.
Get those files closer, put them in one folder. I don't know what members could say, but I think they need to see
No,
the results.
let me just change the files because I could have been.
Charles, the moment you share a file, that will be
Yes.
the only file shared. So you can change the file.
Let me just change the file. Chair, Chair, am I sharing the file? Are you positioned to see the screen?
We're only seeing your PowerPoint.
Yes. I
There is
just
a
want
comment.
to try out the links because they are actually.
Professor Ora is suggesting that have all documents.
Charlie, all
opened.
those files should be open.
Okay.
Yeah, but for him to be able to show them, they must be on the desktop. Let him save the files on the desktop, open them, and then it will be possible for him to share.
Chair, I was trying to open the data from parametric results. Because the links are opening, I don't know.
Charles, what
Yes,
you have
please.
to do, get the files, have them on the desktop, open them from the desktop, and share. It will be possible.
Okay.
The moment you hide them in the other files, it will be very hard.
Okay.
Just save them on the desktop, open them, and then start sharing.
Just a second, Chair. Chair, I was trying to open the link for parametric results. Does it show on your side? Incidentally, here it just opens.
You may have
Not
to
yet.
oscillate. You may
Not
have to
yet.
oscillate between your documents.
Okay, fine. Now that I have removed them.
But do you have those files?
I have the files, and incidentally they are opening here. And when I tested them last time, they were opening normally.
Why don't you do this? Unshare this one, unshare the slides, and share the other documents so that you oscillate between documents.
Okay.
Since you didn't do this earlier.
Okay. For instance, this is the file from the link of parametric results, showing whether the parametric assumptions of normality, linearity, and collinearity were achieved. And here, as you can see, the histogram there. For instance, the one for procurement performance expectation gap, which is our DV, is the most near normal, and path dependence is normal. This one is also almost normal. This one is slightly skewed. We also carried out linearity tests where we used correlations, and as you can see here, the results of the correlations clearly indicate that all these values are highly correlated, and also used the variance inflation factor to check for multicollinearity, where the values were less than 10. They actually, the highest one was 2.9. They are less than 3.3, as recommended by here. That means this is version 3. So I also checked for reliability and validity of quantitative data. And although the link is open here, I can open the file. These are the slides for validity and the reliability chair, which I'm sharing. I hope you are seeing that. So we checked for.
We have not seen the results.
Unshare and then share the new file.
Okay. Chair.
Yes,
am I sharing the slide or no? Validity and reliability, because I don't know what could be happening.
Charles, you
So
are...
Chair, we
proceed.
Okay. So we checked for constructing a reliability, where we checked for the values of composite reliability as being greater or equal to 0.708 to check whether internal consistent had been met, and also check for convergent validity using the outer loadings, in which values were 0.708, and the average variance extracted where values were 0.05. These are the values, Chair, for convergent and the composite reliability. We use Coroban's alpha to check for consistency. We also use the raw composite reliability values and the average variance extracted. And these are the different tables showing discriminant validity using both Faneleka criterion and the heteromonoid criterion, where all values were above 0.7. So the values in the blue circles are clearly above 0.7 and above, to prove that a convergent validity was achieved. Chair, study findings. I present study findings following first the propositions, where we had the nature and magnitude of the performance expectation gap, and then those ones showing path analysis for hypothesis testing, where we shall look at the path coefficients, p-values, and t-values. Chair, we had the leading proposition looking at the nature of procurement performance expectation gap and how the different stakeholders perceived it. And from the results of the qualitative data, they perceived procurement performance expectation gap to be a general lapse in procurement performance failure, which is punctuated by growing levels of performance dissatisfaction, narrowness of community access roads, delayed completion of road networks, and also inconsistency in the quality of completed works from their own perspectives. And out of these three major themes emerged, there was lacks in performance efficiency, lacks in level of performance effectiveness, and low level of community satisfaction. And Chair, this has been moved, but the illustrations for thematic analysis. Can you open it here? Chair, these are the results from the qualitative interviews presented in themes. The first theme was lacks in performance efficiency. As you can see, they looked at lacks in performance efficiency in terms of the nature of workload that is involved, nature of financing needs for the community roadworks, and also the amount of money involved in working on this roadworks expenditure. According to them, there was insufficient funding in this area. And when they looked at the quality of maram that was being used on these roadworks, and also the general standards of these roads, it depicted the deficiencies in performance standards. And also when they looked at whether they were in position to display cost breakdowns in terms of input material costs, and also the condition surveys on road user satisfaction, they were also lacked in terms of cost efficiency on these roads, which collectively gave rise to the lack in performance efficiency. The second theme was lack in performance effectiveness, where they looked at the road completion rates, the level of utilization of equipment, for instance, where they looked at community giving support in terms of fuel. Most of these district governments don't have fuel in most cases to work on these roads, and therefore machines remain dormant for some time. And also extent of community collaboration. Sometimes there are issues where the district is encroaching on their land without permission. And to them, that one led to some laxity in terms of performance effectiveness, because roads were not being completed on time. And sometimes they accuse them of using poor quality inputs like maram. They actually say they're using soil as opposed to the tested maram from the laboratories. Chair, low level of community satisfaction. There was general consensus that the community was not generally satisfied in terms of roadworks performance. The assessment is not properly being done. And also extent of media influence, where every now and then the media disseminates information of the technical personnel, embezzling funds made for community roadworks, and also general community character and attitude, where the community is not really owning up these roads. They think that the roads belong to the district government. They are roads of the government, and therefore for them they have nothing to contribute. So the attitude is that they don't look after them, and they think this is the property of the government. There were also no sustainability plans in case the warranty period of the 3 years for the machines do elapse. They have a feeling that the district governments won't manage to look after these machines, and therefore these machines will be completely grounded. Chair, this is the radar diagram trying to depict the stakeholders' understanding of return performance expectation gap, that there is insufficient funding, there's low level of utilization of equipment. Sometimes they remain dormant, they don't have fuel, operators are not there, they are poorly paid, performance standards are also questioned, the use of inputs, standard inputs as opposed to easily accessible inputs, road completion rates. In most cases, roads are abandoned, they're not completed on time. I'm sure quite often you have seen molds of soil being assembled on the road for some time without working on them. The quality of roads, that these roads weather within a very short time, just one simple rain power and the entire road is washed away. There are no sustainability plan for the machines. So this was the general understanding of procurement performance expectation gap. And this one, among other constructs, helped us to come up with a quantitative tool for which we eventually used for conducting quantitative data. Chair, the second proposition was on the performance expectation, looking at the magnitude of procurement performance expectation gap. And analyzing this proposition, we did this by deploying the assessment of grand mean values, and also used manual witness scores to look at the differences in the scores in trying to quantify the magnitude of the expectation gap for each of the three indicators of the professional performance expectation gap. And we proposed what we called a performance expectations gap index. So this index, as per the formula there, is 1 minus the absolute value of all the performance gaps that have been considered in this study, which are 3. And this gap ranges between the range of -1 to 1, and n denotes the number of times the gap is considered. In this study, we consider the gaps arising from performance efficiency, gaps arising from performance effectiveness, and gaps arising from performance reasonableness. And this, we try to propose a table of how we can interpret the different ranges of gaps. That, for instance, if a gap is between 0.4 to 0.56 indicates an average performance gap, and therefore there's a need to improve on it. A gap ranges between 0 to 0.19 indicates a very narrow performance gap, and therefore there's a need to improve feedback to match expectations. Out of the computations here, the computations gave us a gap of 35%. Here, this gap means that the technical personnel can only achieve 65% of their expected performance, and the remaining balance of 35% is the perceived gap according to the stakeholders' perspective. We also try to look at the gaps from the different stakeholder groups, that is the road users and technical personnel. And here, as you can see from this table here, according to the road users, they say 38.46% is the gap, according to them, that the technical personnel can only achieve the difference, which creates this 38.46%. And then, according to the technical personnel, for them, the gap is 39.29%. So here you can clearly see that even the technical personnel believe that they have not attained 100% performance expectation, creating a gap of 39.29%. And these gaps are attributed to the 3 dimensions, as explained. Here I also try to look at the gaps in the different regions, since we collected data from the 4 regions. In the Eastern region, for instance, the gap was mainly relating to the failure to achieve performance efficiency, where the gap was 19.23%. In the Central region, the major issues were laxed with the attainment of performance efficiency still, but in the Central region, the gap was 27.27%, meaning that the technical personnel within the Central region, those districts in the Central region, had only managed to perform according to the expected performance standards by the stakeholders, creating a difference of 27.27%. And in another region, the gap was 19.72, and the Western 22. So overall, Central region experienced the largest performance expectation gap, meaning that if you went out to survey the expectations of the road users, they do believe that centrally, there are a lot of performance inefficiencies, almost reaching 41.82%, followed by Northern region with 38.4%. Here, the second part of the results relates to hypothesis testing. Since we used the quantitative results to design a quantitative tool to test the hypotheses, we used the structural equation modeling, which complies with the predictive-oriented objective of the study. We also used the bootstrapping approach to test for mediation. And these are some of the findings, 10 hypotheses. results, demographic characteristics. They're all served by the different key players. We had the community road users, community leaders, those ones serving on the works committees, district engineer, assistant district engineer, road inspectors, and town engineers. And overall, of course, we mostly got district engineers who are technical personnel and a number of road users. As Chair, I explained, the operational understanding of a road user we adopted here, that we managed to identify the community leaders who are elected. They serve the community, they have that mandate, and they have also participated in drafting the budget. And you can see most of these ones, more than 4 years. There are very few cases where the respondents had served in district governments for less than 1 year. And we note that these are districts that had been newly created, the ones that were created in 2012. And therefore, the district engineers and the acting district engineers had just been recruited. Area of work, we had 72 technical staff and also 38 road users. Level of education attained. Here we note that majority of the respondents had attained postgraduate degree, 35.5%. But however, these ones are technical staff personnel. When we look at the level of education of road users, these are the ones who had attained diploma levels. Total work experience in handling roadworks projects. Majority of these ones had at least served these district governments for a period of more than 4 years, and only a few cases where they had served for less than a year. These were the new districts that have just been created in 2010. When was the district government created and became operational? You can see, Chair, that there are those districts that had been created after 2010. 20 of them respondents came from these districts, and therefore that's why their experience is a little bit low. When they receive equipment, some received equipment in 2016, others received equipment in 2017. Surprisingly, Chair, when we looked at whether the district governments had filled the district engineer's post, almost 65% were in acting capacity, and this really poses performance issues. If they are in acting capacity, means that they have not been confirmed, and some of them have served for a very long time, and therefore substantially these posts of district engineer, only 5 posts had been filled out the performance issues when these posts are not filled. In terms of kilometers of roads that have been worked on, totals 18.
Charles,
809. Yes, please.
You have used 1 hour, and given that you have got a few challenges in here and there with your hyperlinks, I propose that you should be able to take us to the result of your hypothesis and the discussion in the next 15 minutes, because you must create time for people to give you feedback.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. So that was a summary of sample characteristics. When we looked at the competing models, one with and one without the mediator, we realized that upward adjustment in the R square went better.
Charles, you must have a challenge with your network. You are not hearing you. I used to even, may have even gone off. Charles is off. Hope we can give him a few minutes to come back. Okay, members can advise on how to proceed with Charles's issues. He seemed to have serious issues with the presentation. Professor Rolla, any comment? Professor Rolla, Dr. Goret, do you have any comment to Charles in line with how to proceed? Because he hasn't even discussed the results.
Chair.
Yes, Prof.
This is a lesson to all the students going to present that it's always good to do rehearsals. Rehearsals, yes, you may do it physically to yourself or to the mirror, but then there's also the Zoom rehearsal. Today, anyone can get a Zoom link, generate a Zoom link. You get a Zoom link, present to a few friends. In this session, you are supposed to time yourself and see if you can present whatever you want to present within that limited time. The important thing is rehearse, and when you're rehearsing, you time yourself. It's very critical because in an exam, you are given, I don't know whether it's 45 minutes or 1 hour to do your presentation. Everything must be done within that allocated time. So during rehearsals, you practice and then you are able to see which slides or which areas you're supposed to take time or overemphasize and stuff like that. Without that, if you just prepare your slides and then say, Dr. Ahmed, put me on the slot for next week, without having gone through this practice, you're bound to have these challenges. The purpose of this meeting, the purpose of this presentation is to get comments. So make sure that you manage time so that you are able to get the comments to improve your work. I don't know whether the candidate is back, the student is back online. But for me, that is what I have seen here. Let us give him time to go to the next. Let him leave out the demographics. He goes to the next thing that he wants to share with us. I think he has learned. Next time he'll do better. Let us give him the opportunity since he's on the floor. Let him finish his presentation. Over to you, Chair.
Charlie seems to be off, Dr. Ahmed.
He's not yet back. Shafiq, try calling him and see.
Chair.
Yes, Prof.
I wanted to suggest, or I want to suggest that since initially you had two people who were ready to present, the second person could be ready, and since possibly she's at the proposal level, she presents. I've tried to contact Charles by calling him, but his phones are off, and I don't know whether he will even return. But the other alternative, which may not really help much, is for us to provide the comments, since this is recorded and we send it to him, comments on what he has so far presented. But that may not be really very good, since he wanted to present the whole work up to the end. So, Chair, I was thinking that possibly the second person could come in, since we have around 1 hour, I think, if not 2 hours, 1.5 hours. So she could come in.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Prof. Dr. Matov, your hand was up. Do you have any comment about how we can proceed? Okay. I think it was accidental. The second person was Teresa. I am not sure whether she can present now. Is Teresa online? Because
yes,
we
I'm
had...
trying to put on my computer because I was using a phone.
Hey, so you can present now, right?
Yeah, it's okay. I can.
Okay, fine. Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, you have also new members who joined us in the process,
Yes,
like Dr. Sister Marie, the Dean Business, Uganda Matters University, and a few others. I think even Lola joined us later. You didn't introduce her. Professor Lola, you are welcome. Chair, maybe you can proceed.
Thank you very much, members. Those who joined late, when we had already introduced our senior colleagues, a number of you joined a few minutes after 4. Dr. Goretti Cheyune, for the commitment, every Sunday, I'm sure that Dr. Goretti will be on despite the challenges here and there. Dr. Gideon, thank you for joining. Dr. Onette Atukunda, thank you for being part of the team. And Professor Rolla. I didn't mention about those in the beginning because they were not online. Even Dr. Sister Marie, who also joined late, but usual team leaders here. Thank you very much. And as we wait for Tilisa to join and we give her a few comments, allow me to appreciate also our students who normally join on time. They are students who have been pioneers of this platform, and every Sunday I will always see them. So many of them, including Bernard, Merit, Livia, Francis, James, Joseph Elasu, Julius Opiso, Faith Kadondi, Kasa Damanga, others. They have been extremely religious in attending these meetings. And even a few have been sometimes missing here and there, but you're welcome. David, you have been quite, you had lost. I hope you are coming back in full swing, Nyamyonjo. You have been rare of recent. David, are you there?
Yes, doctor. I'm happy to be here, doctor.
You should be able to present NEC within 1 to 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, it's okay, Doctor. Thank you so much for the good work.
Chair,
welcome, David. Yes, Prof.
Chair, we also recognize the presence of Maureen Treyongere.
Maureen, can you say something as we wait for Teresa? Professor is saying that you were lost. Maureen T. Are you there, Maureen? Okay, Prof. But all members, we really appreciate your presence. We cannot mention one by one. Brenda Akakunda, you have been extremely religious in attending this session. Yes, Brenda, I'm sorry for that. Thank you very much. Yes, Teresa?
Yes, I am. The computer is now on. It took a little bit time to switch on. I'm sorry.
It is old. The challenge is your computer is getting old.
Yeah, but I've got another one which I'm using to collect data, but it's not the one which I was using to do the work. But I have another computer. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, you're going to be given 30 minutes for presentation, and you'll get a few comments after. Teresa also wanted to submit her proposal on Monday. So let us give her a chance since Charles has totally disappeared.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I see David Wasike is online. Okay, you can see my PowerPoint?
Not yet, madam. Okay, now we can see it. I can see it.
Okay. I want to put it on. Okay. Dr. Warugembe, it is clearly seen?
Very clear. Madam, you can start. You have 30 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, my topic is I'm going to look at the CEO power, institutional ownership, integrated reporting, and earnings quality. My IV here is the CEO power, and I'll be looking at the different dimensions under the CEO power. And then in the institution ownership will be my moderator. And then integrated reporting is the mediator, and then earnings quality is the dependent variable. Yeah, that's how my study is. I'm doing this PhD from Mo University, and I'm still at the proposal level. Okay, I will just briefly go through that. What is the old issue? Why interested in this topic in the first place? There's been a lot of corrupts, a lot of scandals that are going on in the world, not today, for many years that have gone, and still they have not stopped. Like the scandals are still going on. Companies are going down, companies are collapsing, mainly because of issues to do with the manipulation, with earnings management, with the quality of earnings that are being reported. And the scholars and the researchers have still continued to do this research, despite the fact of the many that have been done before. And why did I got interested in this? I'm like, if there's so many researches have been done and still there's a problem going on, what could be the issue maybe could solve this problem? And then I went ahead to look at, now there's a new phenomenon of the new era of integrated reporting, whereby the companies or the firms are expected to report financial and non-financial information. And meaning that if they're going to report financial and non-financial information, it means basically there's nothing that is going to be hidden. And it isn't mandatory for the firms to have an integrated reporting, but it is on advantages as the firms are able to portray everything that is happening in the organization. So what will make the firms to be interested to do so? I'm thinking maybe because they can be able to have integrated reporting, it may improve on the earnings quality. That's why I say, let me research on that aspect too, so that I can bring the importance of firms getting interested to have integrated reporting. It may improve on the earnings quality. Then as I'm looking at the CEO power, I'm looking at the CEO power from the different perspective, looking at it from the structural power, from the expert power, from the ownership power. These CEO are they are the top management in an organization, and they have a lot to say, or a lot of decision to make, strategic decision that really affects the firm. And they can either decide and ensure that there is actually integrated reporting in the firm or not, or the quality of earnings which are reported is of high or of low level. But then again, I said, okay, fine, they may have all these powers, but then there should be someone who can control, so that they may not have to say, we are not going to have inter-report reporting, or they are going to report whatever earnings they feel like they want to report, because sometimes they report it according to their own interest. Then that's when I was looking at the institutional power to see whether it can control the powers of these CEOs. So the earnings qualities has continued to attract keen interest among the academicians, practitioners, and policymakers, because there's a lot of interest that the stakeholders have in this. And at the end of the day, definitely it has an ultimate survival of the firm as being studied by the different scholars. And it is the ability, earnings quality is the ability to report, to have that reported earnings that can reflect the company's true earnings, that it's really the truth of what inspired, is the true earnings of that firm. So quality earnings report that whatever earnings it is this. So when we say that the company has got high quality earnings or quality earnings, it means that whatever earnings have been reported are the true earnings, and they are able to reflect the reported earnings that is able to predict the future earnings of that firm. And normally those earnings, they affect the company, they will affect the investment, they will affect the decisions that they are going to be made by those different CEOs. And therefore, whatever earnings are reported will have a very big impact in that organization. And the fact that they have that impact, it will definitely have to affect the stock price. And if they're going to affect the stock price, every CEO will want to, have something good reported, or they want to show a good picture out there, maybe to attract the management. And also, other than that, when these earnings are reported up or high, sometimes the bonuses that are given to this CEO, sometimes they are based on those earnings. So they can be so much interested and all wanting to actually manipulate these earnings to suit them. Either they are going to report them so that they are going to get high bonuses, because sometimes the bonuses are given based on these earnings, or they want to report the untrue stock price just to want to attract the shareholders out there, when in real sense, that is not actually what is happening in the organization. So it has that so much interest everyone will want to be interested in. And the world has continued to experience these corporate failures. We see the Tyco International in 2002, it actually made a very big loss, which was even more than what happened with the Enron. We've seen companies are going down in Kenya. Mumias has gone down, Uchumi has gone down, Trust Bank has gone down, and all the issues are just incorporated within the earnings, manipulation of the earnings. They are not recording the true earnings that has actually been in that organization. So this increased manipulation has continued to bring that interest, attention, even to myself. If people have done the research and still people are manipulating these earnings, what is that is making for the earnings to continue being at a low level? What is really causing that? What can be done so that these earnings can be of good quality? So the CEO tends to be the most influential member of an entity, as they control over corporate performance and they exercise authorities over corporate decisions, like financial disclosures, like ensuring quality of earnings has actually been reported. So the upper echelon CEO will predict in this study that the CEO are sometimes motivated to quest of their own interest at the expense of the shareholders. Aspect of even agents also comes in here. And the previous researchers have looked at this CEO power as the main determinant of earnings quality, but with a lot of mixed findings. Others will find the CEO power, yes, will predict the earnings quality. Others get a negative conclusion. This could be maybe because of contextual gap, maybe because of intervening variable, or because of the intervening or variable, which could be a moderator, which could be a mediator, etc. That is what the researcher wants to look at. Why? Why is it all those non-conclusive results? Why those mixed findings? Why still the continuous corrupting and scandals in these different organizations. That's what the researcher wants to find out. Why is it being so studied, but still the companies are going down? Yeah. So integrated reporting is an important aspect of earnings quality because it's going to involve reporting both financial and non-financial. And the researchers have argued that institutional ownership is associated with high earnings quality. While others are finding a positive relationship, others find a negative relationship. So in conclusion, to the best knowledge of this study, there is no evidence of studies that investigate the moderating effect of institutional ownership on the relationship between the CEO power and earnings quality as mediated by the integrated reporting using evidence for all the listed firms in East Africa. So the researcher is going to look at the moderated mediation and see how would this improve in the earnings quality. The study will be from East Africa, so from Nairobi Security Exchange, Uganda Security Exchange, the Zambia Security Exchange, and the Rwanda Security Exchange. We have not put the Burundi because Burundi has not yet started listing any of their firms. So what is the problem? Companies have continued corruption despite the fact of the different researches that have been carried out to solve the problem of earnings quality with inconclusive results. Earning quality is studied in isolation. Yes, they are studying it, but they are not incorporating the aspect of integrated reporting and institutional ownership. So the researcher reasons that institutional ownership could moderate the relationship between the CEO power and earnings quality while mediating for integrated reporting. The general objective is to moderate the role of institutional ownership on the relationship between CEO power and earnings quality as mediated by integrated reporting. And this is my conceptual framework. So I would want to study and find out how does the CEO power affect the earnings quality as a whole? Because in my study, I want to look at CEO power and I want to do an index as being done as it has been done by other scholars and see CEO power as a whole. How does it affect the earnings quality? But within it has dimensions. Normally, there are 4 dimensions that will measure CEO power according to Payton in 1986. But I've taken the 4 because the other aspect is the prestige power, which really does not bring out the measurement of power. So I'm going to look at structure power and see how does structure power affect earnings quality? How does ownership power affect earnings quality and expert power? Then I will also mediate it with integrated reporting. But each of these individual dimensions of CEO power, I will also find out how each of them can be mediated to earnings quality. But then this CEO power can be controlled. There's somebody who can control the decisions that are being made by the CEO power. And in my study, I'm looking at it that institutional ownership would actually control this power because these people, they are the top management. And this institutional ownership, normally, in most cases, they are holding more shareholding, or I want to see if they have more ownership. Are they able to control the decisions that are being made by the CEO power? What effect does it have on the CEO power? How can it control the relationship between the CEO power and the integrated reporting, and also with the CEO power and earnings quality? Then at the end of the day, I will be able to do now the moderation mediation and see what effect will it have in this earnings quality. Maybe this way we'll be able to get a solution. Why the continuous collapse of this company? Maybe they need to ensure that they are reporting, they are having integrated reporting. Financial and financial information is being disclosed, and also so to have a bigger percentage of institutional ownership so that they are able to control the actions and the behaviors, the decisions that are being made by this CEO power. I will have a few control variables, the firm leverage, because they have an effect on the earnings quality, and the firm size, firm age, and the CEO power, because sometimes you may, I have to control for CEO power because maybe the older the CEO will be, maybe have more powers than a young CEO. Now, my objectives are just within this, getting the relationship between CEO power and earnings quality, but also getting the relationship between structure power and earnings quality, ownership power and earnings quality, expert power and earnings quality. Then I also look at another objective of CEO power and integrated reporting, because for this to be a mediator, there has to be a relationship between the CEO power and this it itself, and also between this and this it itself. Then I'll look at ownership power and integrated reporting. Then I do the expert power and integrated reporting. And then to bring this, the moderator, I'm going to look at the moderating effect of this institutional ownership in the relationship between CEO power and the integrated reporting, in the moderating effect of institutional power between structural power, integrated, ownership power, integrated, and expert power and integrated reporting. Then I'll look at the moderating effect of institutional power in the relationship between CEO power and earnings quality as mediated by integrated reporting. So it will be actually a moderated mediation study, but still working on it. Okay, maybe I won't go through the significance. I will look at the theories that I'm going to use here will be the upper echelons theory, the HS theory, and the signaling theory. The upper echelons theory really basically looks at the CEO's characteristics and why the CEOs do the things they do. Why do they report what they report? What triggers them to report whatever they report in the organization? And HS looks at the HS theory looks at the principal HS. Remember the CEO power or the CEO themselves, they are acting on behalf of the shareholders. And in the signaling theory, it is what in a state somebody to report something that is really not like a mandatory. The CEO would want, for example, to show that the company is doing very well. So even when it is non-mandatory, they will want to report that financial and non-financial. Why? Because they want to show the organization. They want to show that the firm is doing very well. The firm is performing very well. Even when it's not a necessity, they want to seek in know that sign that the company is performing very, very well. Now, in my methodology, I will look at different research paradigms. I'm going to use the positivism philosophy, and my epistemology will be focusing on discovering observable and measurable facts and irregularities, and on phenomena that can be observed and measured will lead to the production of the meaningful data that I'm going to research on. Then I will also conduct, it's going to be explanatory design and research design, because I'm going to use a secondary data, and I will do it for the period of 7 years. That is from the year January 2014 to December 2021. This integrated reporting was actually instituted in the year December 2013. That is why I want to carry out a study from the year 2014 to 2021 and see what effect or how could have it mediated the relationship between the CEO power and the earnings quality. The population are 122 firms, and I have not yet settled on the sample, but in my sample, I'm going to make sure I remove any suspended firms and any closed-listed firms. The closed-listed firms, you'll find that a firm actually belongs to Kenya, but then it has also been listed in Rwanda, in Tanzania. Those ones, I will be removing them. And any firm that has been suspended, it will also, if it has not operated for those 7 years, I am going also to eliminate them. Then that way, I will be able to come up now with the sample size that I'm going to carry out the work. My variables would be a predictor, a moderator, mediator, a control, and the outcome variables. And in my dependent variables, measuring my dependent variables, I'm going to use the Kotal model 2005. There has been a different measurement of earnings quality from the times of 1985, starting with Harry in 1985, and then we came to D. Angelas in 1986, whereby he was now looking at earnings quality and bringing aspect of the previous year and the current year will bring aspect of discretionary accruals, because I'm going to measure earnings quality using discretionary accruals. But you can't measure discretionary accrual just direct like that. You have to get the non-discretionary accrual cannot be just measured like that. You must get discretionary accrual, subtract it from discretionary accrual to get non-discretionary accrual. So you must get the total accrual minus discretionary accrual. And then it will give you the non-discretionary accrual. So it's not something that I can just measure direct. So I have to look for the total accruals, look for the discretionary accruals, the non-discretionary accruals, and then I'll be able to get the discretionary accruals. So I will use the Kotal model to measure that because it has incorporated the aspect of return on assets, which will reduce on the aspect of heteroscedasticity. It is going to remove the aspect of the intercept, which will be important in my study. So I've left the Hale model, the D'Angelo's, the Jones model, modified Jones model, and the current one that is being used is the Kotal model 2005. And then my independent variables, remember I'm looking at the CO power, but I'm going to look at it in the different dimension of structure power, the expert power, and the ownership power. In the CO structure power, I want to measure it using the CEO pay slice. I'll use the CEO pay slice, looking at what does the CEO earn, and then I divide it with the first top CEOs in that organization. But again, when you just look at the CEO pay slice alone, and they may be misleading because you may think the CEO actually has power, is earning a lot of money, when the person just below him or her is equally almost earning the same. And to remove that aspect which may mislead in my conclusion, I also go ahead to look at the CEO pay gap so that I can look at the second immediate person, CEO. How much does that person earn divided by the total, the first 5 CEO in that organization, so that I can see if the difference is P, then it means the CEO earns so much and then has more power. But you may find that he's earning maybe 151 million and the next one is earning maybe 150. So he may not really actually have that much power. But again, I also want to look at in the aspect of the board independence. The more the independence the board is, the more they can control the powers of the CEO. The less the independent they have, they may not have to say so much. The CEO will still control and make all the decisions in the organization. So that's how I am going to be able to measure the structural power. And then the CEO ownership power, I'll look at it at what are the number of the shares that this CEO owns in that organization. And then the CEO expertise, I look at it from the perspective, the more the CEO is in the organization, the more the expertise they get, the more the experience they are getting. So I will look at the CEO power in the perspective of the tenure and the expertise, the financial experts in this matter. In the aspect of finance, yeah, if somebody maybe has done areas of finance or as SEC or as SCPA, because they will be understanding as far as the items of integrated reporting are concerned, they will understand what is that is needed to be reported as far as the integrated reporting is concerned. Then the institutional ownership, I will measure it using whether the number of shares the institution owns, how much of the shares has. Then of course I will be getting the medium, and anything that is above the medium, I will take it 1. Then anything less, I will have it 0. And then the mediating variable, I'm going to use the approach of Klink and Kuze in 2018, and they have come up with a disclosure index that will measure it has around 50 items. And in there, they have looked at there are different contents in the integrated reporting, which they are basing on to come up with that index. So I will use that index to be able to measure the aspect of integrated reporting. Then I will also be able to look at the different control variables, and my data will be secondary, like I've said, and I'm going to look at all the companies in East Africa. I will basically look at all the companies, other than those ones which have been suspended or those ones which are listed. Or I will do data analysis and presentation, and my model this will be tested using multiple regression analysis to test the direct moderating and mediating effect. And the Usman specification test will be employed to determine the suitability of the choice of fixed effect regression and random effect regression as a basis to explain that relationship of the predictor and the dependent variable. And in my model specification, I will first control for all the control variables. I'll first take up the control variables, and therefore my earnings quality will be the farm leverage, the farm size, the farm age, and the CEO age, because those were my control variables. So I first pick, the first stage is to have those control variables in place. And then the study will test for the effect of the various sub-constructs, those sub-constructs which were under the CEO power. Okay, so I will now bring in those subcontracts under the CEO power. So I'll be having my control variable, the farm leverage, size, age, and CEO age. And then how I bring in the subcontract of ownership, the CEO ownership structure, the CEO ownership power. This is structure power, ownership power, and the expert power, and of course the the error term. Since the study is seeking to investigate the mediating effect of integrated reporting on the relationship between the CEO power and earnings quality, then I am going to now, at that point when the integrated reporting is in there, it becomes like a DV. It becomes like a dependent variable. So instead of now having earnings quality, I am going now to regress using having integrated reporting, and then now the rest of the control variables and the sub-constructs that we are under my IV. Then, according to Byron and Keno, 1986, a mediating effect is normally established when you regress the dependent variable against the mediating variable, but you must be controlling the independent variable, meaning that if I'm going to cut out the mediation, I'm actually adding here integrated reporting. But as I'm regressing earnings quality against integrated reporting, I hold, like I am controlling all the control variables and the subcontracts of my independent variable. Then to moderate the effect now of the institutional ownership on that relationship of CEO power and the integrated reporting, now I will have here integrated reporting, and then now I bring in that aspect of moderation, the CEO power, the CEO structure power, and in ownership structure, the CEO ownership power and in the institutional ownership and expert and institutional ownership. Of course, while having all the other control variables and the subcontract of my independent variables. So the moderating effect of institutional ownership on the relationship between CEO power and the integrated reporting, now I'll be having the earnings quality. Then this is the previous results of the moderation. So I'll come and bring that here to be able to see whether actually there is that mediation in the study. But I am still doing that. Then of course, there will be some assumptions that I will have to make and carry out certain tests, like the linearity test, the multicollinearity, heteroscedasticity, autocorrelation, normal tests. Those ones I will do them as I do the study and as I continue to understand the work. Thank you for listening.
Teresa, thank you very much for summarizing this in a few minutes. I would like to say that you are really spot on, presenting in only approximately 20-something minutes. You really did a great job. Now we're on the floor. We can give you more 30 minutes or 20 to really look at your work. Already we have a hand from Dr. Gideon Nkurunziza. Please settle and get these comments. Teresa wants to submit her proposal for review on Monday, so I think the comments from we are giving her today may help her to move ahead. Yes, Dr. Gideon, your hand is up for Teresa.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to begin because the environment has some noise. Teresa, I would request you look at where you started from. First of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for this work. My comments are just observations. You may take them or you may just ignore them, depending on how you view them. On your, I don't know whether you still have the slides there.
Yes, I do.
I wanted to look at where you are having a statement where you have said your study has attracted attention to policymakers and researchers, plus academicians.
There.
Yeah, I think you started very well by showing us how your studies actually requiring a number of issues to look at. Now, if you look at that statement, it's a very strong statement. But my issue is about the citations now. It has attracted a keen interest. This is a current view. And I see you seem to be saying the debate stopped in 2017.
Okay.
Now, between 2017 to date, is this really debate still there?
Okay.
You get my
Yes,
argument there?
yes, yes.
Yeah, look at that. If you want to raise up the debate, I think you also be clear. Otherwise, I get a bit. Okay, the other one is where you also said that quality earnings quality is a corporate governance issue.
True.
Somewhere when you are presenting, of course your speed was very fast, but I know that's how you usually speak. Is it really? I did not see the corporate governance issues coming in directly as the earning quality. I think you need to look at it. Is it a corporate governance issue? Is it financial performance issue? What is it? When you talked, I somehow got lost. You may look at that also. The other one on your model, you have institutional ownership as a moderator. And I'm sure you well know that good moderators are exogenous variables. Now, is this institutional ownership, are you looking at it from the internal environment or from external, coming from external? How will you separate the internal aspect in terms of institutional ownership? That is my view. You need to look at that clearly. If at all this is not exogenous, you are not looking at it as exogenous value and it is endogenous value, then you may also do something there. Does it still remain a moderator? If at all it is okay, this is a very great model, moderated mediation. That's very great. The other observation I have is where you are saying you're going to use, before by there you come to secondary data, you are going to get a PhD, but I don't see any philosophical orientation. This is something you need to pay attention to. I do not see philosophical orientation that is guiding you to understand the earnings quality. Before you go to the methodology, can we bring out the philosophical assumptions, the ontological position, epistemological position? That would really make more meaning in your work. The other one is, you said you're going to use secondary data. I know if you're going to use secondary data, by now you are thinking about the panel data. Given the way you're talking, I see you going to panel data. And if you go into panel data, do you have the data right now? If you have the data right now, can you try to work backward and see, you try to do some kind of interrogation? Because my worry is, you may be easy to say you're going to use, yes, secondary data, and you have come up with the conceptual model. By the time you look for that data, it's not there. So what are you going to do? Teresa, those are my few comments. I submit.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Please, we are moving on. There are more comments in the chat. One from Professor Kagari. Thank you for this good presentation. However, I seem to have missed out on the extent agency theory. On the extent agency theory underpins this study. I think on the extent on which or how agency theory underpins the study. To this, I think the theoretical approach, even Dr. Gideon has mentioned it, you need to really come out clearly on that. Kasuli George has another one. Thanks for the work. I have a few observations. One, you have not clearly brought out the weaknesses and strengths of each of the three theories. Kasuli again is in the theories. And two, you are silent about the concept of value creation, yet it's a cornerstone of IR. Why are you neglecting the society dimension of value creation? To this, I think that one requires a response at one time. Please take note of it. Right. Are there comments from the members? Any other person to give Teresa comments?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Dr. Goretti.
I would like to thank Teresa for the eloquent presentation, summarizing all that she has presented. Teresa, thank you so much. My concern is on clarity on integrated reporting. I didn't hear you right on the indicators of integrated report clearly to me, or I missed it. Earnings quality. We normally talk about the cash flows they influence the earning quality. So what I'm seeing is basically the qualitative aspects of earnings quality. And I'm wondering why you are ignoring the quantitative aspects influence the ratios. You cannot explain quality qualitatively alone, aspect of the quantitative aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goretti. You were not clear, but I think Teresa was able to pick something from your submission. Dr. Msenzo, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to thank Teresa for the very, very good presentation. Like Professor Rola said, I think Teresa has shown ownership of the work. Even when she had slides, she has not been reading, and I think this is very good. I want to commend her for this. Now, having said this, I just have one or two issues to put forward. One is, I think Teresa needs to tell us, because I've seen she has integrated the control variables in her model, but she does not proceed to tell us the logic behind the integration of such control variables. Yes, these are not well reasoned. These are neither well reasoned in the literature or in the background section. Is there any evidence that previous studies have showed the association of these control variables with the DV so as to necessitate inclusion of these control variables in the model? So I think she will need to get back and look at that more critically. The second issue has already been raised by the previous scholars. She needs to improve on the interplay of her theories, and I think usage of a theoretical matrix would enable her to really improve on this, because it appears to be a weak link in her work, yet very, very important in order to ground her study. Now, the third issue is, this is an interesting study. Of course, when she talks about moderated mediation model, and we are aware that these studies are normally very important when studying the complex causal relationship between variables like our study is. However, the missing link, which I also want to see in the background, is how institutional ownership, as she alludes, conditionally influences also the strength of the indirect effect between the CEO power on what quality earnings. I think that has not been well argued out. It is still hanging, and she will need to do more to justify the moderated mediation model. Because if this is not done, I think the model becomes a little bit shaky. Finally, she has attempted to build the evidence of the problem in the background, but I would like to implore her to further look at the funnel approach in building this problem, because it would really help her to really improve her work. Otherwise, say for this, I can really see that she has really a very good study. And once she incorporates these comments that we are giving, the work will further improve.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ibra, for the comments. Any other comment for Tilisa? Is there another comment for Tilisa members?
Chair.
Yes, David. David.
So, thank you so much, Chair and members, for helping us improve. And thank you so much, Teresa, the good work. Because even when you were called at short notice, you were able to make a very good presentation in a short time. Maybe this is a suggestion for improvement on maybe some theories you could think about. I've seen you are looking at CEO power. Okay, the effect of CEO power. Yes, you have used the upper echelons theory, which says organizational outcomes are a reflection of CEO values, but your IV is not about values and it's about power. I would suggest that maybe you consider looking at managerial power, the managerial power theory. Perhaps it could complement the upper echelons theory in explaining the effect of power. Then maybe the other theory you could look at, I don't know if it's appropriate for your study, but you could look at it. It's the managerial hegemony theory, which posits that whereas everyone thinks the board controls the CEO, there are situations where the CEO actually controls the board indirectly. So you could look at the managerial hegemony theory. I don't know if it can better explain your variables, but you can look at them and see if they improve your work. But most importantly, in my opinion, as you're incorporating theories, there are three major things you should look at. Look at the what variables are you including? Look at the how, how the variables are related, and then the why. I think when you include the why, you'll be in position to address most of the comments which our senior doctors have raised. Otherwise, I think it's a very, very interesting study, and I'm learning a lot from you. Keep it up, Carol. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David, for the comments you're giving to Lisa. Any other comment, members? Do you have any comment for Tilisa? Do you have any other
Chair.
comment? Yes, Professor Rolla.
I add my voice to what has already been mentioned. And first of all, I'd like to thank Carol for thus far she has come. I know her journey hasn't been an easy one. Like any other student, she has changed topics and topics and topics, but finally she has something to work on. Congratulations, Carol, for thus far you have come. You have a wonderful study, but there are a few things that you need to iron out. I don't know whether it's there in your book. To begin with, when you started off your presentation, I asked myself, what is earnings quality in your study? What is earnings quality in your study? This is your main variable that is driving this research. And so you need to spend a lot of time dissecting this and making it easy for anyone listening in to understand, okay? In relation to that, I want you to take us to the slide on your problem statement. Problem statement, the first bullet, okay, the second bullet and the others are should I say the research gaps and the like, but the first bullet would have been maybe the practical gap, the practical problem out there that you wish to investigate. So reading just the first bullet there, I cannot put my hand to what is wrong out there in terms of earnings quality. You're just talking about firms collapsing. Is firms collapsing an indicator of earnings quality? When I looked at that, I asked myself, what is earnings quality in your study? So to improve your problem statement, I don't know whether you have it in your book, but make sure for the practical problem bits, you bring out issues out there that, because this is a problem statement, not a statement of opportunity. So bring out issues that reflect there is a problem in terms of earnings quality. What is not right? What are those indicators? What are those pointers for a reader to say that there is a problem in terms of earnings quality that needs to be addressed, that needs our attention? What is that? So this doesn't come out clearly in your problem statement. Then when you run to methodology, please go to methodology where you measure earnings quality. You see, now here you're saying discretionary accruals as a measure of earnings quality. What do you mean by discretionary accruals? This doesn't come out in the background. It doesn't come out in the problem statement. We are seeing it the first time here. My point here is go back and look at what you're calling earnings quality. The indicators and all that must, come out clearly right from the background through problem statement and to this level, okay? And then in methodology, there's the independent variable. Go to the slide on independent variable. I don't know whether I heard you clearly, where you said the CEOs, you kept saying the CEOs in the company, when you're talking about the what? The pay slice, the pay gap, You kept saying between the CEOs in a company, between the CEOs in a company. So I asked myself, how many CEOs are in a company? Was it a slip of a tongue? Be careful about this when you're, mentioning these things. Then, okay, the issue of theory has already been raised, but just go back to the slide on theory. This has already been raised, but just to add my voice. The theories you pick out here must be aligned with your conceptual framework. Because at the end of the day, you are saying this particular theory explains the relationship between A and B. So as you explain this, you go back to what Nyamyonjo has said. The what, the why, the how. That is just a point of emphasis. Chair, most of the comments I noted have already been raised, so I wouldn't want to repeat myself. Because I had also noted the issue of philosophical assumption. Where are you coming from? You try to go to philosophical assumption. The slide on philosophical assumption. That slide there, I don't know whether it's because they ambushed you, but this is an area that you need to go back and align with the approach that you have decided to take. You're taking the route of panel data. What are the philosophical assumptions and reasons why you go the way you have gone? This is what should come out clearly on that particular slide. Otherwise, overall, you've done a good job. Thank you. Just try to be clear on those issues, and then, yes, over to you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Rola, for the good comments you have given to Teresa C. I think, Teresa, you have a number of comments, and there are many. We have Professor, I think, let me begin with Bernard, then we'll go to Prof. Bernard?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Teresa, for stepping out of your shoes and sharing with us your study. Teresa, I only kept watching through for some of the minor issues maybe which we need to keep paying attention. If we go to that slide of the DAC, where I saw that equation. Okay, now I honestly have no clue what these concepts represent here, but in the write-up of or the language of econometrics, when for the second one, for instance, the NDA, it has no subscripts. Yet on the right-hand side, there are subscripts defined all over the variables. And the two, when you start with the 1 over TA subscript less a year, 1 lag or whatever period you are talking about, there must be a foundation why you are lagging the TA here, and on the left-hand side, nothing is happening. So these are just the small things, my sister, for just cleaning up as as you move on. Then on the surface also, instead of, for instance, defining these fractions in the equations, usually it is easier to get, for instance, B2 times changing the cells minus changing this over this. You do just get one. Oh, did we lose Teresa? You just get ones for simplification. You just get one, the meaning of one representation of that whole variable, but now you just define it down somewhere. It would also make your equations a little cleaner. Teresa, did we lose you?
No, you didn't lose
She's
me.
on. She's already
I
on.
was going to give you, sorry, I was the way I want to give
I
you
lost
the model.
your slides. That's what I was referring to. For
Let me give it to you. I want to give you the final model. That one I actually improved it.
okay.
So I want to give you this one
fine.
so that you correct me in the right one. Let me remove this one. I've just seen I had worked on it and then I forgot to change here. Just 1 minute like this, and I
all right, and then I will also look at your estimations. I heard you talking about the fixed and random, which are of course conventional panel data estimations, but there are other two which we all add and run and choose depending on what your results give you. So we don't predetermine. Okay.
It is there. That is the final model. This is Kotal 2005. That is the final model that I am going to use after coming from the beginning of that until this is what I'm going to use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, but on the left-hand side, you must also have a subscript. Is it a current one? Is it going to be a lag? That was one I was emphasizing.
True. I will.
Then, there must be some representation, TAC over TA. Instead of having this, rather annual coming by site fraction, you just get one representation, maybe AC whatever, but you come and define it down somewhere so that the people know how you get it. You don't have to bring this whole. And then on B2, the same story, you get one symbol or one representation of the variable, but you define it down here. And because when you do this, it means in terms of estimation, when you take logs, all these things will change. For instance, PPE over TA, it will be PPE minus TA at that time when you are logging things to normalize this equation or everywhere. And that's what creates why people should always clean up. Okay, now on the estimations, I just wanted to say on the models, I saw fixed effects and whatever things I stated, just check if we can run there. Next today, I saw you had listed the models or the processes, Husman. Okay, that next. Oh. Anyway, without wasting time, the issue is for you need to.
Teresa, you called the slide tests. Maybe you can go to the slide among the last slides.
I think so, but what I just wanted to make sure is there beyond the random effects and beyond the random effects and the fixed effects, there might even be we don't predetermine the estimations to do. Rather, you run all the panel data estimations today that are currently running, and which are about 4, and then it is the tests which will tell you which one to focus your discussion on. So that's what I was just saying. Otherwise, thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much, Bernard. You remind me of the panel data presentation we had here, and you led us through this whole process. Right, before we go to Prof, Teresa, back to your first to go to your model. I will come Professor Eddie Tukamushaba from Utamu, the VC. I think they have talked about this, but still my comments have been captured. But one, when we look at your CEO power, it takes me back to what Professor Rola asked you about, trying as much as possible to explain the issue of inequality. Who determines inequality and how is inequality determined? So the movement between CEO power and inequality, that should be very clear conceptually. And then two, your objectives seem to be many. Unfortunately, you were not able to show us the objectives and the hypothesis clearly. But from when we look at, if I look at this model, you seem to have around 12 hypotheses and objectives. They look to be many in number. But if you go to the CEO power, the global variable, I don't know how you are going to, in your modeling, I have seen you trying to bring out the measures, the structure power, ownership power, and expert power, bring out those different objectives and hypotheses for each. But how have you covered the issue of the global variable in there, the CEO power? Measuring these others could actually leave a gap without really looking at the global one. And maybe that could be, you could address that or have a comment or defend it. The other story on the model that you need to think about, I think Dr. Gideon hinted on it, on the moderation. You have not really captured how you're going to handle the moderation statistically. Yes, you're going to use the panel data in this, but the statistical tools for analyzing your moderation were not really captured. And at the same time, even your mediation. Whereas we have seen that you're going to use a moderation mediation model, but we may need details of that in the process. Right. The other thing I can add on what Professor Rola mentioned on your problem statement is the issue of the flow. The gaps, the different gaps were not well captured. Professor Rola talked about the practical gap as you begin your statement of the problem, but the theoretical gap, you have really not given that too much attention, yet it is very, very powerful, the theoretical gap. You may need to look at that. And at PhD level, we normally say that theory has a lot to do in your work. Let me invite Prof, and then I'll invite you to make a comment on all those, and possibly we can plan to close. Professor?
Thank you, Chair. I want to really begin by thanking Teresa for the great job and what she has managed to do so far. I agree with most of the comments that have been raised, and I know that this area is quite interesting, the area on earnings quality. But I'm also aware that whereas there is a lot of research on earnings quality, the conceptualization of the earnings quality constructs has remained a little bit fuzzy. And in this case, I know that if you look at works of various scholars, you discover that some scholars look at earnings quality in terms of by taking formative constructs, and while others take reflective constructs. In fact, in this case, you discover that you have variables like especially under well, for earnings quality, you've got those which are that represent earnings properties like earnings management, earnings smoothing, conservatism, and predictability. And then on the other side, you've got the investor responsiveness and the external indicators of misstatements. My concern actually, as I bring out the reflective and the formative constructs of earnings quality, is to bring this to the attention of Teresa, and so that during the her write-up, she's able to articulate what she's going to use, whether she's going to use reflective constructs or formative constructs. I am also aware, especially if you dig through literature, that earnings quality as a construct has also been looked at in terms of the proxies, what we call earnings quality proxies. And under the earnings quality proxies, you've got those which are market related, where you look at market reactions, while others come from the accounting perspective, where you have accounting properties, and that's where you have the earnings management, the ones that I've already articulated, earnings smoothing and persistence and so forth, and where you have other external indicators. So I am not very sure, because I know in her modeling at the end of the day, she only talks about discretionary accruals, which will be used to measure earnings quality, totally ignoring a debate that seemed to exist in literature. Because if she chooses this, then she must be able to either dismiss what others have tended to do in research, because a body of knowledge in this area actually does exist. So I think for her this is very important, because this is the criterion variable that she's actually studying. The other comment relates to what I think Ahmed, I think you are the one who has raised this. I see that she has a variable called CEO power, and then I had earlier imagined that these are indicators: structural power, ownership, and expert. And I know from what she did mention, she's going to use secondary data. I'm not very sure whether it is panel or otherwise, but she has secondary data. I was just wondering whether some of these dimensions do not actually take a direction that will make it a little bit impossible for her to obtain secondary data, to start building those models and testing those models. So especially variables like expert power and so forth. I don't know what she's going to I mean, what she's going to look at in these particular constructs. But again, related to that, I see that if she has these as dimensions, these again turn out to be three constructs. If she decides to look at them the way she has actually presented them in the boxes there. So meaning that maybe she's not interested in combining these three into a variable called CO power. So she's going to look at them separately and using different indicators, measures, in which case she will not be able to get an index of CO power. So I was just wondering, because the way she was actually presenting the variable that seemed to come out prominently and is the variable of CO power possibly, and I really got an impression that she wants to test that. The other comment, Chair, relates to what Ibrahim did say earlier on the control variables. I know that if you look at research on earnings quality, actually previous studies, most of them have tended to bring these as significant, as predictors, like farm leverage, farm size, age, and CO. I think if she's going to have them as control variables, she needs to tell us exactly how she's going to use them in the modeling, because I saw the modeling that my friend Bernard has commented on and other people. I lost out on these control variables. And you know, she has moderation, she has mediation, and she has control variables. So I hope she will not forget at the end of the day that she has a number of variables which play different roles in the model, and therefore testing them at that level of either control or probably moderation or mediation or that mediated moderation, whatever it is, she should not lose sight of them. Chair, those are the comments I want to make, but I think she has done a great job in terms of really working on her research proposal. I submit, Chair.
Thank you very much, Professor. I think, Teresa, you have got enough comments. And there's the last one from Professor Eddie to come Shabe. He's saying in modern governance, it requires that CEOs should not be shareholders. This should cause conflict between board of directors and CEOs in day-to-day management of the company. There should be power separation. So maybe take note of that as you reach the level of discussing your work. Such issues may be very important. Members, it is now 6:30. Allow me to invite Teresa to reassure the team that he may address the comments or to be more clear on a few things. And then I will invite Professor Rolla to close this. Thank you. Teresa?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very sorry, you know, when you called me, I'd like almost gone off and I just got out of my sleep. But I'm very, very humbled. I don't want to take this for granted. I just want to say thank you so much, everybody, for really improving my work. There are so many things you have made me to see. I had not seen them. I just want to appreciate everybody. The aspect of social value dimensions, I'm going to incorporate them in the part of the integrated reporting. And yes, it is true, my theoretical aspect, yeah, I've seen it is not very good. I'm really, really going to work on it and incorporating the aspect of discriminatory accrual in my work, as Prof has put it. I have the data. I've tried to collect this data. It is there. I have gone to the financial statement of all listed firms in East Africa, and I have the data with me. I've collected some of the data already. So I can collect data for all these items here. And when I'm going to have an index, there's an index that have been done by very many scholars in here. So I'm going to base on that index, but of course, based on my study. And I can be able to come up with an index, one index from this, which will give me CEO power as a whole. So I can be able to look at CEO power as a whole with this integrated reporting and also earnings quality. So there's an index. I can be able to come up with an index. I've collected some of the data and I've proved that I can access this information. It is there I'm able to have the information with me. I think most of the things I just need to work on them. I have seen where I've not done right. So I think that Dr. Orugembe just allow me to go and work on all this correction to make I'm not going to submit my document tomorrow. No, I'm going to work on it properly and incorporate all the information you have shared with me, because really it will improve my work and it will be in a better position than where it has been. I just want to thank you, and let me just take and incorporate all the work that you have shared with me. You did say about the objectives and the hypothesis. The hypotheses are going to come from the objectives which I have within this. But CO Power Prof, I am going to have an index. All these items, I'll form an index which will give me CO Power as a whole. Then I see how it will affect this, and also how it can be mediated through to the earnings quality. Yeah. Is there something, Dr. Warugumbe, you want me to specifically answer?
There are so many comments, but I think you have tried to
Yes.
hint on each one of them. You can address them. You have contacts of people who have raised some of these.
Yes, yes.
Where you get stuck, please contact them.
Yes, that is the best. I will do that. Thank you so much. Yes.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Let me invite Professor Rolla to give us the final word and the closing prayer.
Thank you, Chair, for the session. Teresa, you can see that it has been very rewarding for you to present. And to every student on the call who hasn't yet presented, I'll continue to say that you need to come out from your hiding place and come and present. It's for your own good. You can see Teresa is going back very happy. All the comments are not to say that you don't have anything or you've wasted time. No, it's to point out the areas for improvement. It's for your own good. At the end of the day, we want something that you yourself will be proud about. So don't fear, don't hesitate to come and present. So on this note, I would like to thank, first of all, our mentor, Professor Joseph Ntai, for this platform. This platform has really, or is still beneficial to all of us, to the students, to learn. And for those who already have their PhDs, to come and learn new things and also make a contribution to furthering people's academic endeavors. So thank you so much, Professor Ntai. And for your continuous guidance, we thank you, we appreciate you. We value you so much. Thank you so much. And to every panelist present, thank you. For all those who have logged in from outside the country with the different time zones, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for really creating your time to make a contribution to the students. Thank you. Thank you for this far you have reached. Thank you, everybody, for logging in, for staying with us up to this time. And so we have learned, for those who have logged in for the first time, this is a session that takes place every Sunday morning from 3 a.m. to around this time, 6:30. Please join us again next Sunday without fail. You'll come and learn new things. You come and lift someone's hand. We need you, because this session wouldn't be successful without you. And Chair, thank you for ably managing the session. May God bless you all who are here. And with that note, can we now humble ourselves and pray? In closing, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this moment that we are able to gather here and listen and learn and take home something with us. As we go to our various destinations during the day, help us, O Lord, to achieve that we have set to achieve. Give us wisdom and understanding. Above all, give us protection. Till we meet next Sunday, we commit everything into your loving hands, O Lord. Guide us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Bye and have a lovely weekend, lovely Sunday, and lovely week ahead.